Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie on Monday, August the 28th, 2023. So last couple of videos I've sort of talked about political characters. Yesterday I talked about Justin Trudeau, day before Donald Trump. So I should probably give it a break and not talk about politics, but I couldn't help myself. I'm going to talk about Kamala Harris, sort of give an update on what I see in her horoscope. Now, I understand that a lot of people have a real problem with Kamala Harris. She doesn't seem to be a very sympathetic character. She doesn't seem particularly competent as vice president. Having said that, this channel is an astrology channel. It's not a politics channel. I do have my own political views. I have far too many political views, actually. I sometimes can't help myself in terms of expressing them. But politics isn't really my thing. Yes, I do have a degree in international relations, but that was decades ago, and I'm not as up with politics as I used to be, for example, in the 1980s. I'm a bit wary here, and you just do have to bear in mind that this is a politics channel, and I have to try to be as neutral as I can. Now, as far as Kamala Harris is concerned, you look at right-wing TV programs or their YouTube versions, right-wing commentators, and they say the same thing. Hey, Kamala Harris, she's a disaster. She is absolutely terrible. She is a heartbeat from becoming president of the United States. And it's said as if it's an absolute would be an absolute tragic disaster if she ever became president of the United States. Now, that may or may not be true. But the thing is that Joe Biden is president of the United States. And I kind of have already tried to demonstrate this in a previous video, that Kamala Harris might be a disaster as a president of the United States. She might not be. But the point is that Joe Biden is president of the United States. And this is not a political point. You have to understand me. I'm not making a political point here. After Biden's birthday, he is the worst possible person to be the president of the United States. I'm basing this on astrology. Anyone, any U.S. citizen, native-born American citizen would be a better president than Joe Biden, pretty much. It doesn't matter whether it's Bernie Sanders, whether it's Ted Cruz, whether it's some random person you meet in McDonald's, whether it's some random convict in the American prison system. Anyone, pretty much, would be a better president than Joe Biden after his birthday, and I really mean that. I'm not making that up as some trivial comment, and that is not a partisan comment. I'm just basing it on the astrology. It's really essential that Joe Biden is not president at his birthday, after his birthday, because I've gone through this before. It's his solar return is on his birthday. It is so bad that it's a threat to the United States. So if he leaves office for whatever reason and Kamala Harris replaces him, we should all be happy. and regardless of our political opinion. So I just want to make that point, and I'm not making a partisan comment here. I'm just basing it on the astrology. So with that in mind, I will be looking at Kamala Harris's horoscope in this video. But before I do that, I do want to look at what's going on astrologically today, which is Monday, August the 28th, 2023. So here we go. There we are. So there is Kamala Harris, top right. And so let's now look at today's astrology. So today the moon is in Aquarius, or at least it goes into Aquarius. And that rather depends on where you are. So if you're in London, the moon goes into Aquarius at 15:32, just around 3:30 in the afternoon. So in London, Western Europe, it's moon in Aquarius is a late afternoon, evening thing. And before that, the moon is in Capricorn. If you're in New York, moon goes into Aquarius at 10:32 in the morning. If you're in Los Angeles, it goes into Aquarius at 7:32 in the morning. Yeah, in the Americas, for most of the day, the moon should be in Aquarius. If you're, for example, in Manila, in the Philippines, the moon goes into Aquarius at 10:32, I think, in the evening. So you don't really see much of moon in Aquarius. If you're in Australasia, New Zealand, Australia, New Zealand, the moon is not going to be in Aquarius. It's going to be in Capricorn all day. So this does mean that what kind of day it is may to an extent be impacted on where you are. If you're in the Americas, you're going to have a moon in Aquarius for most of the day, and you're going to pick up on a trine aspect, 120-degree aspect between the moon and Mars. In air signs, recently we've had a long period of time with no air in the sky, except when the moon occasionally goes, every now and then, every week or so, the moon will go into an air sign. But by and large, it's been fairly airless. But now Mars is in Libra, which is an air sign. So there's more scope for thinking, for gentle communication, for playing with ideas, for saying things which may be a bit unusual, but we can take more risks when we're talking. I think when we had nothing in air, people were kind of quite fixed, and we weren't really into sort of offbeat comments. But now we can be freer in our thinking and our communication. And with that moon trine Mars, it is dynamic. We can assert ourselves. We can assert ourselves with our ideas. We can tell people what we think. Now, if you're in Europe, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, then for most of the day, the moon is going to be in Capricorn, and you might then be feeling more of a conjunction between the moon and Pluto. You can see the moon, before it goes into Aquarius, makes a conjunction with Pluto. And I don't think the moon conjunct Pluto is particularly relevant if you're in the Americas. But if you're in the old world, then for much of the day, indeed maybe all of the day, there is going to be a certain emotional intensity in the environment with moon conjunct Pluto. I mean, it's not a big deal. You get a moon-Pluto conjunction every week, every month. But it may be difficult to difficult to, to express our feelings, tell people how we feel. And at the same time, certain people may be playing emotional power games. So just when I talk, bear in mind that distinction between the old world and the new world. Aside from that, probably the major, most important aspect today is a sesquiquadrate between Mars and Jupiter. When I say sesquiquadrate, that's a really long word. What it means is 135 degrees. 135 degrees, that is, again, if you've got a cake, and you divide the cake into 8 equal slices, 135 degrees would be 3 of those slices, and it's an important angle, 3/8 of the circle. So, this Mars-Jupiter sesquiquadrate is on the Aries point, because Mars is opposition the Aries point here. Jupiter is semi-square the Aries point, and so this Mars-Jupiter sesquiquadrate, it's going to be there's a lot of energy here. Some people are going to be really throwing their energy around. They're going to want things to happen. They're going to be putting all they've got into making things happen. And in the process, there could be trouble. We might overdo it. So with this Mars sesquiquadrate Jupiter, be careful. Don't overdo it. If you're doing something which has a capacity for exaggeration, then, be careful. If you're driving, make sure you stick to the speed limit. If you're communicating with people, remember there's a moon trine Mars. Moon is making this trine aspect to Mars, particularly if you're in the Americas. And so that could be about communication, argument. You throw in Mars sesquiquadrate Jupiter, and that argument could get out of control. If you have altercations with other members of the public, they could get nasty very quickly. So not particularly good in some respects. That Mars sesquiquadrate Jupiter. Of course, it's quite a violent aspect in its own way, because Mars is a planet of war. You add Jupiter to it, and it's like more war. So, and if you're in any war zones, then things might be bad, but they could be even worse with Mars sesquiquadrate Jupiter. Do bear that in mind. Yet, on the plus side, Mars and Jupiter are on the Sun node midpoint. They are. Let me just show you what I mean by that. There is the North Node. It's about there. So you can see that Mars is squaring the Sun node midpoint, and Jupiter is making a semi-square to the Sun node midpoint. So I think that could actually be quite positive if we're ambitious. Because the Sun node midpoint is about making contacts, making connections, making connections in quite an ambitious kind of way. I think many of us are going to want to make connections in order to further our own ambitions, and we're going to be very keen to do that. And I don't think it's a bad thing to do. So if you're an ambitious extrovert, then you might have a great day. Great day for getting in contact with people. If you're looking for a job, sending resumes, ringing them up, that kind of stuff, looking for a promotion, now is the time to promote yourself. So I think that could be useful. But you mustn't go over the top. You mustn't push it so much that that it backfires. So I think overall that's that Mars Jupiter. It may not be such a problem if you use the Mars-Jupiter energy properly. So I now want to look at my forecasts for the 12 signs, and as always, I'm going to go through the 12 signs. So these are my star sign forecasts for Monday, August the 28th, 2023. Aries. Life becomes less complicated and you're better able to understand the challenges in front of you. But you do have to understand other people's reality and listen as well as talk. You also need to understand the many ways in which friends and colleagues can help you. Things done on your own may have disappointing results. Taurus. Although you understand the importance of tradition, there are times like today when you need to be forward-thinking and be ready to embrace change. And this is the attitude you need to take if you're working, and you must be ready to be a technological leader. And while you're at it, you can start developing a useful partnership. Gemini. Geminis get bored easily, and you're ready for a change of scene. But you need the right change of scene, something that is in accord with your aspirations and destiny. And in the process, you need to accept that in the recent past, you have got a few things wrong. When an opportunity arrives, be ready to move quickly. Cancer. You're not in the mood for making changes. You feel that you understand the world and you just have to keep going. In some respects, you're right, but you don't want to be completely inflexible. There are some small changes you can make which may make the difference between success and failure. Leo. The moon is moving into Aquarius, your opposite sign, where it aspects Mars. Motivation can come from many sources, including partners, lovers, and spouses. You just need someone to provide the impetus, and then you'll be ready to go. Single Leos who are feeling lonesome need to put themselves in the right place at the right time. Virgo. Make sure you put your energy into the right areas, because at the moment there's plenty of scope for scattering your energy. In general, the areas that matter most are connected with career and finance, and if you can distance yourself from the various distractions, you'll get the rewards you deserve. Libra. The moon is entering Aquarius, where it makes a fortunate aspect to Mars, which is now in your star sign. It's all very energizing and you can make things happen. However, it's not a time for half measures. You either do something or you don't do it. If you do something half-heartedly, things are unlikely to work out. Scorpio. You don't have to draw attention to yourself, because in most cases you don't need outside cooperation to achieve your aims. Go about your daily business and try to cover as much ground as possible. If you're at home, consider the entirety of your living space. There are places and corners that still need to be discovered. Sagittarius. You know how to get your message out, and once the first few words are uttered or written, there will be a flood of ideas. But you may be tempted to go over the top and use words in a careless and even destructive way. However, it would be a shame if your lack of discipline went on to spoil what could be a really good day. Capricorn. If your priorities relate to money and career, then it should be a good Monday. The moon is entering the finance sector of your solar chart, where it makes a useful aspect to Mars in Libra. Through the sheer force of your personality, you can move the agenda forward and get taken seriously by the people you're working with. Aquarius. You can reintegrate with society and start getting close to the people who matter most. And when you and other people are comfortable with each other, you can take steps to create a very different environment, an environment that accords with your broad aspirations. But at some stage, not today, you'll have to bring things down to earth. Pisces. The source of your power is probably your feelings, with emotional impressions being the beginning of action. And there's no need to announce your intentions. You know what you want, and in the quietness of the proverbial night, you can work your magic. And then it is just a matter of waiting. Now, what I want to do is look at the I Ching. So, I, as usual, threw 3 coins in the air, and I asked the question, what is Monday going to be like for visitors to my YouTube channel? So, the first hexagram I got was the first hexagram, number 1, the creative. So, we start the day in a position where we can be, I don't say, this means creative, not like in a way when, you might think about, painting a picture or writing a novel or something like that. The creative is like the beginning of action. It's like pure energy. It's like the energy that hasn't really decided where it wants to go. It's a very positive force. You can see that. It's all the lines are unbroken. And so that is the positivity. And we have an enormous amount of power at our disposal. So the knack is to work out how we're going to use this power. And there are 3 moving lines. This line moves, this line moves, this line moves. So it's quite a dynamic hexagram. So the sequence of events would go like this. It's like it talks about the great man, the person who can really create change, appears on the scene. Maybe that's us, maybe it's someone else. But to begin with, it's unclear how this energy is actually going to be expended. So we have to kind of prepare ourselves. And then as we assert ourselves, as we realize what we want to do, how we want to change our world, how we want to be creative, we have to watch out that other people don't get in our way. They might feel that we're a useful person to know, but that's we've got to or put another way. We need to watch out for hangers-on. We have to decide where we're going to expend our energy, and not allow other people to get in our way, cloud our judgment, and distract us. And finally, this line here moves, and at a certain stage in the day, we may have a choice. The I Ching puts it as if we have a choice. We can either soar into the clouds, we can take the opportunity to perhaps to make a really big name for ourselves, to really tell everyone that we've got something special to offer, get loads of attention. That might be one approach. The other approach might be the way of the sage. We could say, well, we don't need to bother with all that attention, all that praise. We want to go our own way. We don't need other people. We might even, wanting to be a hermit. That's fine. But it's, the I Ching is not saying that one approach or the other is right or wrong. So we have to decide what we want to do. Do we want to be the focus of attention? Do we want to be in the spotlight, or do we want to kind of withdraw into our cave? And yeah, that creativity can be something, in the end, can be something very public, or it can be something very private, and it is up to us. And this hexagram, the creative, it does move. It moves to hexagram number 42, which is increase. By and large, this is a pretty good hexagram. It can literally mean increase, making more money, getting more stuff, although the I Ching is not going to encourage such materialism. And kind of what we have to do is we have to increase what is good in our life and decrease what is bad in our life. So that's what we need to do as we move towards the end of the day. Get rid of the garbage and replace it with something good and wholesome and healthy. And in the process, if we're involved in money, business, finance, whatever, there may be actually chances to make more money. And as I said, to get more stuff, although as I said, the I Ching is not going to appreciate that sort of mindless materialism. So overall, the I Ching is basically saying it's a good day when we can be productive. We can be productive on our own. We do not have to do it in the public eye, or we may decide that this is a time to really push ourselves out, get recognized. It's kind of up to us. So I'm now going to switch back to the astrology, and I am going to look at Kamala Harris's horoscope. So just when you're listening to me, just bear in mind, I'm just trying to be objective. I'm not being partisan. My instinctive feeling, my instinctive prejudice feeling is to be pretty negative about Kamala Harris. I must make that clear. But that's not astrology. This is not a politics channel. So I made this comment right at the beginning that after his birthday, Joe Biden really should not be president. He needs to leave office. He needs to retire. And it doesn't matter who replaces him. I know a lot of people, seem to see Kamala Harris as being the worst possible president, but you've already got the worst possible president, given the situation. Now, let me quickly justify this. I mean, I've done this before a few days ago, but I'm just going to quickly justify what I said, and just to demonstrate that I'm not making it up. I'm basing this on objective astrology. Firstly, here's a USA chart. Been through this chart before. You will notice in the USA chart that the Uranus, planet of upsets, accidents, terrorism, whatever, is on the 7th house cusp. It's kind of conjunct Mars. This is with the USA all the time. This is kind of hard-coded into the July the 4th, 1776 horoscope. Assuming that the USA was born around 5:10 p.m., and I'm fairly sure it was born around that time when the Declaration of Independence was signed. So there's always a potential in the United States to project its fear of terrorism and violence onto the outside world. In other words, for the United States to be so afraid of these demons, that these perhaps imaginary demons at times, that it gets involved in war and terrorist activities because of its projection. So that's the United States. Now, the next chart I want to look at is Joe Biden's horoscope. Joe Biden's, not that one, this one. Joe Biden's horoscope. Joe Biden, like the United States, has Uranus exactly on the seventh house cusp. So in other words, Joe Biden, he picks up on, in a way, the worst aspect of his country. Now, I'm not saying America is a bad country, but every country has the potential for doing bad stuff. But Joe Biden particularly picks up on the worst aspects of America's horoscope. So in a general sense, he's probably the worst president to have. I mean, not the worst, but he's not someone you want to have as a US president. And as I said, yes, Obama had Uranus in the seventh house, but it wasn't like this. But it wasn't as close as this. He's got Uranus exactly on the seventh house cusp. So he's kind of the worst president to have, or one of the worst people to have as president, because he's picking up on the worst aspect of his country's horoscope. Then we have Biden's inauguration chart, and again we get Uranus problems. We can see that when Biden became president, this is when he took the oath of office, I think 10 minutes earlier, but I think at 10 to 12, 11:49, I think, a.m. But I think legally he became president at noon. But at that time there was an exact Mars-Jupiter, there was an exact Mars-Uranus conjunction. And as I said, Mars-Uranus is a very dangerous, explosive combination. And in fact, that Uranus is quite close to the ascendant, remembering that Biden and the USA have Uranus on the descendant, and Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter is square that Mars-Uranus. Saturn is square that Mars-Uranus. So this is a very dangerous inauguration chart. So yes, it's not good for Biden to become president in a general sense, but it's certainly not good for him to become president on January the 20th, 2021, to start his term of office then. Finally, there is Biden's solar return for 2023, and this is what I said. After his birthday, Biden does become extremely dangerous. You can see in this his solar return for Uranus is on the midheaven, Mars is on the IC. So again, you've got the Mars-Uranus opposition, and you've got the Moon exactly on the midpoint of that Mars-Uranus opposition. So this is the moment. This is a year when Biden becomes super dangerous after his birthday. Now, it is possible that all of this stuff simply relates to him and his personal life, and he just has an accident, and that's it. I mean, that's possible. I'm not saying that is the case, but given we're in a dangerous world, we've already got with this war in Ukraine. Who knows what's going to be happening in West Africa, Taiwan? Loads of things could go wrong. And with a president, with all this, when you look at those four charts, this is that solar return is the culmination of it. It is really dangerous. Now, if we kind of had a Babylonian approach, it wouldn't be so bad. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I went to this. I went to a talk at where was it? I think it was the Astrological Lodge of London in the 1980s, and there was a talk about Babylonian astrology, and it was more primitive, more basic than the astrology we practice now. But what the lecturer said is that if things looked really bad astrologically, what they would do is they would, if things were looking bad for the king, they would temporarily remove him from office and put someone else on the throne. It could be anyone, just until this bad patch was over. So with Biden, this bad patch is just a year. So what you could do is you could sort if you took a Babylonian approach, you could kind of remove Joe Biden from office, and then you could randomly choose someone from, I don't know, from McDonald's, or from someone at the counter at McDonald's, or some random person. Just make them president for a year, and when that year is up, when the danger is past, you can take them away and you can put Biden back in office. But you can't do that. So this is my point, that after his birthday, you do not want Biden as president. Anyone. It's not a party political point. You want anyone, regardless of that person's political opinions, political preferences. Anyone is better from Biden after his birthday, and that includes Kamala Harris. So which is why I do find it slightly confusing when right-wing commentators seem to be so worried that Kamala Harris is a heartbeat from being president, when you've already got pretty much the worst possible person in the White House. So let's look at Kamala Harris's horoscope. She was born October the 20th, 1964. I mean, I've looked at her horoscope before. She was born exactly on a full moon. It really exactly on a full moon. You can see her sun is at 2748, 2748 Leo, 2748 Libra, her moon at 2739 Aries. So, assuming there weren't any clouds and you were sort of outside the hospital or wherever she was born and you looked up, you would have seen a full moon, completely full moon at the time that she was born. And having a full moon that exact, I think is a bit of a problem. I know that she was a successful lawyer, but she does have self-expression issues. I do think, because that moon in Aries, the moon in Aries is her. It's a female chart. We look at the moon, and its opposition to the sun. Moon in Aries is someone who fundamentally wants to, be assertive, take action, she just wants to be the initiator, the leader, whatever. That's moon in Aries. But it's opposition the sun. There's always something holding her back. She's always self-conscious. It may be a man, whoever the men close to her. The sun is a male energy. There's always something there, and it's in Libra. So moon in Aries is struggling with sun in Libra. Sun in Libra is, does she initiate, or does she try very hard to make everyone happy? And in the process, she makes no one happy. I think that's perhaps part of a problem. So she needs to deal with that full moon, because I think the full moon is causing a lot of problems. And with the full moon, when you've got people born at a full moon, they often switch from one way of being to another. One moment she can be very Aries, doing things her way, saying the first thing that comes into her head. The next moment she can be just sort of totally focused on, I won't say making other people happy, but trying to work out what she's supposed to be doing. That's a sun in Libra. So that is really difficult. Now the moon in Aries is kind of supported, the fact that she's wants to someone taking the initiative is supported by the fact that she's got North Node in Gemini rising. That North Node is actually very well placed in Western astrology. North Node works well in Gemini, and it's in the first house. That means her taking the initiative, not worrying what other people think, is actually the right way for her to go. It's absolutely appropriate. It is in accord. It's in accord with her destiny. Another thing to point out is her Saturn. She has got Saturn close to the midheaven. Her Saturn, it's kind of reminds me a little bit of Justin Trudeau's Saturn. Remember when we looked at Justin Trudeau's Saturn yesterday? Justin Trudeau had Moon in Aries like Kamala Harris, but of course Kamala Harris is a woman, so it's her moon. With Justin Trudeau, he's likely to project that moon because the moon is a female planet. So both Kamala Harris and Justin Trudeau were born at night. Both of them had a Saturn in air sign close to the midheaven. So although she's got Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn is it's a daytime planet, and this is a nighttime chart. So I don't think that Saturn always works very well. It's like when you've got a Saturn like that, they try hard to be leaders, but it sometimes doesn't really work. But having said that, she has got Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn conjunct the midheaven. I certainly think that that is helpful. Now, as far as what is going on at the moment with Kamala Harris's horoscope, I kind of take the view that she's going through a really bad phase at the moment. Just you can see astrologically that things are going wrong. So let me just show you what I mean. So if we let's say we put okay, well, we'll just look at today's planets, for example. So inside we've got Kamala Harris's chart. Outside we've got what's going on today. And you will see that Saturn at the moment is in early Pisces. So what that means is that at the moment Kamala Harris has Saturn on her midheaven, and it's not working. Saturn has been on her midheaven since March, and I know that her leadership and her abilities have been pretty unexceptional throughout her term of office so far as vice president. But this Saturn on her midheaven is not just not working at all. She's got and it comes with her Saturn. Saturn is returning to the place it was when she was born. The Saturn, because she's going to be how old is she? She's going to be 60 next year. So Saturn takes 29 years to go around the sun. So she's on her coming up to the second. She's just past the second crossing, so the second Saturn return, and it's just been difficult for her. Transiting Saturn is on her midheaven, so probably it feels like nothing is going right. She really cannot assert herself. She can't apply herself. It's not good. Worse still, well, certainly as bad. Remember, I talked about her having this full moon, and Pluto is square her full moon. So, and it's been square her full moon for a couple of years now, on and off. You see there, Pluto at the moment is 2818 Capricorn, and it's making a square to her full moon. So I think that Pluto, it could have worked in several ways. Pluto can be about the expression of power. It could have motivated her to be powerful, to be transformatively powerful. But sometimes the Pluto can drive things underground, can hide things. And I think this Pluto is just making her actually feel incredibly self-conscious. Everything, making her hyper self-conscious. People, and I suppose it doesn't help by the press she's getting. People criticize her laugh, her cackling, her inane remarks, all that kind of stuff. And I think right now she is incredibly self-conscious, and I don't think that's helping at all. And bearing in mind that she's got a full moon in her horoscope, we need to look at her progressed chart. If we take the secondary progressions, remember, she is coming up to 59 years old. So if we look at the positions of the planets 59 days after she was born. So let me hear it. So this would be, so she's born in sort of late October. So if we look at the positions of the planets around 59 days after she was born, which would be about December the 19th, 1964, we see there is a progressed full moon. So 59 days after she was born, there was another full moon. So this is what she's got right now. So I set this is for August the 27th. So progressed moon is at 26 Gemini, progressed sun is at 27 Sagittarius. So this full moon and all its problems, she's feeling it, and she's feeling it again right now. And I think it's just making it impossible for her to get anything done. It's just, there's a complete lack of decent self-expression going on. I suspect that I suspect she's trying to please everyone and pleasing no one, and it's just absolutely not working. However, you need to bear in mind that this is a short-term thing. The progressed moon moves relatively quickly. In a few months' time, this will be breaking up. The moon will be moving out of, the progressed moon will be moving into Cancer, where it's in its own sign. So, things aren't going to get any worse. Also, look at her progressed chart. In her progressed chart, Venus is in Scorpio, the sign of its detriment. It's been there for decades, but it's going to be moving out soon. And so Venus is going to be moving into Sagittarius. Remember that. Venus is moving from Scorpio to Sagittarius. And that is going to help. So yeah, I do not think that things are going to get much worse for her. I'm saying that totally, I'm trying to be objective. I don't think, it'd be nice if she, I don't know, I don't think she should be in politics. Certainly don't think she'd be a good president. But as I've said, however bad she is, she's not going to be as bad as the current president. So as far as a quick look at solar returns, bearing in mind that progressed Venus is I think about to move into Sagittarius. Well, okay. The only way it wouldn't go into Sagittarius would be if it's about to go retrograde. So I should have looked this up beforehand. I'm just checking to see if in 1964, end of 1964, did Venus go retrograde or did it not go into Sagittarius? So yeah, Venus will go into Sagittarius. So that's not a problem. So yes, I don't think things are going to get much worse for her. And if you look at her solar return for 2024, this is not next year's solar return. This would be the solar return just before the presidential election, a couple of weeks before it. And I'm not making any predictions yet, but notice that Venus is at 331 Sagittarius. So that actually picks up her progressed Venus, which is going to be in early Sagittarius by then. So that is an argument. Again, I'm not making any forecast yet. That is an argument in her favor. So just bear that in mind. So as far as her Vedic astrology is concerned, I think it's appropriate to look at her Vedic chart. Remember that she is her mother was from India, and I would guess that her supporters in India have looked at her horoscope and are rooting for her. Wasn't there when she became vice president? They had sent some news crew to some village or something in I think she comes from South India, and they were all very excited that she was going to be vice president. So what I want to do is, I want to look at her Vedic chart. I mean, I have looked at her Vedic chart before, but just to remind us what's going on. Here is her Vedic chart. Now, in 2012, she entered her Rahu Dasha, North Node, and her Rahu Dasha lasts until 2030. Now, in her Vedic horoscope, her Rahu is well placed. It's in Gemini. In both the West and the East, Rahu works well. Sorry, I mean, in the West, we call it the North Node. It works well in Gemini. And so it's kind of not surprising that this period since 2012 has really been quite fortunate. I mean, if you look at it, she became I think she became Attorney General, Californian Attorney General in 2011, just before her Rahu Dasha started. Then she got elected to the Senate in 2017. Is that right? 2017? I think, or sorry, did she get to the Senate? I don't know whether she was elected to the Senate or would she have been elected in 2016, and then actually went to the Senate in 2017. So overall, this period of the Rahu Dasha seems to kind of connect with her political ascent. You know, we got this with Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher's Rahu Dasha started in the early 1970s. I think it was, off the top of my head, 1970. I think it was 1972, but early 70s. And it went on until 1990. And so you could see with Margaret Thatcher, you know, her position as at the highest echelons of British politics. You know, beginning of Rahu Dasha, I think she was a cabinet minister in Edward Heath's government. By the end of it, she was prime minister. I think her Rahu Dasha her Rahu Dasha ended, I think off the top of my head, in September 1990, and by December 1990 she was gone. So don't underestimate this Rahu Dasha, and particularly as Kamala Harris has got it in Gemini. But you will see that from January 2023 through to February 2024, she is in Rahu main period, but she's in the South Node sub period. So when you go in the North Node main period, South Node sub period, it's real turmoil. North Node, South Node, and it causes complete chaos. And this is perhaps what she's feeling, but it's not going to last forever. In 2024, February 24, she enters her Venus sub-period. Venus is ruler of her fifth house. In Indian astrology, the fifth house is connected with Purva Punya, past life credit. It's a fortunate house, all things being equal, the fifth house. So that certainly helps Venus. On the downside, she has got Saturn opposition her Venus. She's got, she'll have her transiting Saturn is opposition her Venus through into 2024, and that may be enough to stop her becoming president. On the other hand, it may be fixable. What do I mean by fixable? We don't talk about fixable in sort of Western astrology. It's just possible that Kamala Harris could be able to fix that that problem with Saturn. How would she fix it? Well, she may not be Hindu herself, but I'm sure she's got lots of Hindu contacts, and there are lots of Hindus rooting for her. According to the logic of Hindu astrology, through the right kind of prayers and all this kind of stuff, the Saturn problem could be mitigated. So you could get a situation, using the logic of Hindu astrology, that through prayer, she could potentially get to the White House. I mean, yeah, I'm speculating there, but I think from a Hindu perspective, that problem with Saturn, yeah, I think it's fixable. But I'm not a Hindu. I'm not a Hindu priest. What do I know? Those are some thoughts on Kamala Harris. And so what I'm really saying is that she's getting a lot of bad press. Everyone has written her off. But from an astrological point of view, I'm not entirely convinced. Maybe I'm just being contrarian for the sake of it. But and I must absolutely emphasize, I am not making a political point here. I'm not a fan of Kamala Harris. I'm just saying that from an astrological point of view, you shouldn't write her off. She could still get to the White House. She could still be president. And I've said we should be happy if Kamala Harris becomes president over the next few months for whatever reason, because we do not want Biden to Biden has, it's absolutely essential that Biden isn't president by his birthday in November, because it's going to be terrible. I think it could be absolutely disastrous, certainly very dangerous for America and the rest of the world, if he's president beyond his birthday. And having Kamala Harris as president would be a relief. We might dodge a bullet by having Kamala Harris as a president. It might not seem like that, but that's my view on the matter. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today, and I will talk to you tomorrow.